Welcome to Econ 102, where economist Noah Smith and I make sense of what's happening in the news, technology, business, and beyond through the lens of economics. Let's jump right in. Shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
So this is from listener Joshua Milton. So Joshua says, I found the insights about the growing power struggle between authoritarian and democratic powers instructive and a helpful frame. Noah's warnings about possible World War III and or Cold War II are particularly visceral for me. What can the U.S. do to help contribute to improving its readiness for such conflicts? I feel somewhat at a loss.
Right. So there's a few things we need to do. The main thing, above all else, the thing we need to do is resuscitate our defense industrial base. So defense industrial base means defense manufacturing. For example, ships. Everyone says China can make an infinite number of ships. We can only make a few. Yeah, but that's including commercial shipping, right? Because commercial shipping is very simple. It's just basically like, it's a lot simpler than what Navy ships have to do. Navy ships are incredibly more complex. The United States has almost never had a commercial shipbuilding industry. We built those Liberty ships, the transports. Everyone knows about the Kaiser shipyards. If you've read Freedom's Forge, which you should, during World War II, we built a ton of these ships, and we basically threw together this massive industry very quickly. But then it got dismantled when the war was over, and Kaiser went bankrupt, and we didn't ever build commercial ships again. And we don't build any commercial ships, but we built a ton of Navy ships. Our naval shipyards were incredibly productive. We need to get back to that. So we need our naval shipyards to get humming again. We need our munitions plants to get humming again. We need missiles, lots of missiles. We also need drones. We need lots and lots and lots of drones. And, we just need to massively scale up. So drones are an industry where there is a ton of overlap between the commercial civilian industry and the defense industry. So that's going to be, that and semiconductors are another thing where there's huge overlap. So basically, we need to just be able to produce defense stuff again. Also, there's a lot of vulnerabilities to China in our defense industrial chain. We depend on China for a lot of the parts and components to make weapons, and we need to sort of start getting the critical components out of China, figure out ways to reshore, friendshore that, right? So not necessarily make it all in America, but, at least make it in Mexico, Canada, maybe Japan, maybe India, certainly not China. And so those are the top things we need to do. The United States builds stuff very expensively and slowly, and people say we've forgotten how to build stuff, but that's actually not true. We're actually still good at building stuff. What's happened is that we've lost the institutional capacity to build stuff. So, for example, we have the massive environmental reviews that everyone knows about, but there's a whole lot of other steps in the chain. Things like land acquisition, eminent domain, things like labor law that also need to be streamlined and upgraded in order to produce more defense stuff. Are we going to be able to produce as much as China? Never. It'll be higher tech than China, so that's good, but we will never be able to produce as much as China, but we'll be able to produce a lot more than we are now. The Ukraine war has spurred our defense industrial base a bit. When you hear about contractors like Anduril, Skydio, and all these defense contractors kind of gearing up or getting a lot more interest, that is the Ukraine war. That's what did that. And when you hear about, munitions plants being restarted in Alabama or wherever, that is also the Ukraine war. So people who are like, we should withdraw support to Ukraine. Well, Ukraine has why are we spending all this money on Ukraine when we could be spending it on, I don't know, whatever, nonprofits, whatever the fuck we spend it on. The point is that, no, the money that we're spending on Ukraine is going to U.S. defense contractors. And along with that, there is some actual urgency that we actually need to get stuff built instead of just handing money to defense contractors to sort of pay themselves out, right? So there's the Ukraine war has created pressure to actually build things. Now, is it enough pressure? No. Are we doing enough of that? No. Has it increased the pressure a lot? Yes. So all the people who are against Ukraine aid need to realize that the only reason why there's this boom in defense contracting, the only reason why there's this urgency about the defense industrial base, and the only reason why Biden is doing even a little bit of this is Ukraine. It's not Taiwan. Taiwan is the big threat, or not even Taiwan, but just China in general. Philippines could be basically war with China. That's the overwhelming threat. It's much more dangerous than Russia. It's much bigger, much more dangerous, can produce infinitely more stuff than Russia can. And Russia has Europe to balance it out, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that the effort to supply Ukraine has filled orders for defense contractors and started to resuscitate the defense industrial base that we were letting lie derelict since the end of the Cold War. So that's good. We need to do a lot more of that because we need to understand that it's not just Russia we're fighting at this point. It's Chinese production. That's going to be really hard. The other thing we need to do besides resuscitate our defense industrial base, by the way, is get alliances together. So Biden's actually been a lot better on this. We've been very, very good at upgrading and intensifying the U.S.-Japan alliance, which is especially good because Japan actually can produce stuff cheaply, somewhat, and like we, can produce stuff with Japan. So then, they can help us build ships and missiles and stuff like that to some extent. So that's been very good. We've upgraded our alliance with the Philippines, so we're able to put bases near Taiwan, and we're starting to craft an alliance with India. It'll be a long time before that happens, but that's what we really need to work hard on, that alliance with India. And a lot of people are like, oh no, Modi, blah blah blah, he's bad. No, who cares? He's not so bad that we don't want to make an alliance with him. We want to make an alliance with India, and so we really need to do that. That's very important. India is obviously still a poor country, but it's a very large country and it's growing, and it has a surprising amount of technological, acumen. So it's definitely a country we need to ally with, and we also need to work on, prodding Europe to, especially Germany, to take a stronger stance toward Russia here. They really need to be the arsenal of democracy in Ukraine and East Europe. If they don't do that, we just won't have the capacity to do this two-front war thing that we used to do, or that we used to say we were able to do. And we can't do that anymore. We're too small. China's too big. And so we're going to have to get Europe to really upgrade. So those are the things that we can do. Will it be enough? I don't know, but it's better than not doing it.
Yeah. And just to zoom out for people who hadn't read the World War III post, in terms of one thing you say is this idea that you make this comparison to World War II, and you say that there were a number of wars, I believe 6, leading up to World War II that helped sort of accelerate or get us into it. And at the time, people didn't realize that that these wars were leading up to World War II. And it's possible that depending on what happens next, history might see sort of the war in Ukraine or sort of the conflict in Gaza or Israel as also leading up to the next World War. When do you unpack the potential analogy, or what you were trying to say there?
Right, absolutely. So World War II, leading up to World War II, there were a whole bunch of smaller wars that in the end ended up merging with World War II, or sort of being harbingers of that. There was like the Spanish Civil War, which was a proxy war in which, Nazi and Italian fascist forces and Soviet forces both fought each other actually on the battlefield a little bit. There was the Japanese invasion of Manchuria, to be followed by the Japanese invasion of China proper, and some Japanese Soviet border conflicts in Asia. There was the Italian invasion of Ethiopia. Even before the Soviet Union got involved in World War II, it was invading Finland, and it invaded Poland along with Germany, actually cooperating with the Nazis to dismantle Poland. So there were a lot of sort of lead-ups to World War II, sort of initial little tremors that were like, and then the big one happened. And so it's like, or when you see one of those like, fertilizer explosions, you see like little explosion, big, slightly bigger explosion, slightly bigger explosion, boom, and that's there's your cold open.
Yes, exactly.
So then so that's what's basically happened in World War II. But what's interesting is that you saw something similar right after World War II. You saw this at the beginning of the Cold War. You saw the Korean War, which was a pretty big war, killed millions of people, and you saw the Berlin airlift. Later, you saw the Soviet invasion of Hungary. So you saw in the 50s some of these, things that could have turned, and then you saw a whole bunch of little civil wars like Malaysia, or killings in places like Indonesia. You saw a lot of this stuff that could have exploded into World War III very easily, except it didn't. It instead turned into a Cold War because we showed restraint. And so when I talk about Cold War II between basically the US and China, people say, oh no, we don't want a Cold War. We should just not do that. Well, what people don't understand yet, and what people need to internalize, is that Cold War II is the good case, and that World War III is the bad case, right? We're either making Cold War II, the sequel, or, World War III, the Revenge of Xi. I don't know. The point is that we're going to be having one or the other. And I suggest that we have the Cold War instead of the World War, because the World War would be really bad, and people would die, and their kitties and puppies would die, and their families would die, and that would suck. And And the idea that we can just sort of like back off and surrender to China and then everything will be okay is, diluted, because China will take that opportunity to do whatever it can to permanently weaken and dismantle the United States. Because to make sure that we never in a position to choose otherwise than what we did choose that time. How do we know this? Because we did this to Germany and we did this to Russia. So we know China will do it to us.
What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. It's a bull market. It's a bear market. Rates will rise or fall. Can someone invent a crystal ball? Until then, over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days and not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. If I had needed this product, it's what I'd use. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/102. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/102. netsuite.com/102. Let's talk about supply and demand. The supply, your personal data, which is being bought and sold every day entirely without your knowledge. The demand, thousands of data brokers who are making a fortune trading your private information. This isn't just a rant about spam in your inbox. Data breaches enable identity theft and loss of control over your digital data. But what if you could opt out of this whole system? That's exactly what Incogni does. They handle everything automatically, finding the data brokers who have your information, sending removal requests, and dealing with any pushback. No phone calls, no emails, no hassle on your end. What makes this service really powerful is that it never stops working. Incogni continuously monitors your data, showing up in new places, and automatically sends removal requests. Because in today's world, your personal information keeps getting repackaged and resold unless you actively stop it. They'll even handle any pushback from data brokers who don't want to delete your data. Want to extend that peace of mind to your loved ones? Incogni's Family and Friends plan lets you protect up to 4 additional people under one subscription. Take control of your digital privacy today. Visit incogni.com/econ102 and try it risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code econ102 at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. Again, that's incogni.com/econ102.
Econ 102 is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Moment of Zen, In the Arena, The Cognitive Revolution, and more. If you like what you hear, subscribe and leave us a review in the App Store. You can keep up with both of our Substacks for written analysis of the topics we cover in the show at noahopinion.substack.com and eriktorenberg.substack.com. Thanks for listening.